All right, let's jump right into a really fascinating idea, one that explains a paradox that I bet a lot of us have seen in our own workplaces, maybe even in our own lives.
So, have you ever seen this happen? A company or a leader gets to the absolute top of their game, only for it all to come crashing down. And what's wild is that the very things that made them successful seem to be the cause of their failure. How on earth does that happen? Well, it turns out our whole way of solving problems might actually be the problem itself.
So, to really get a handle on this, let's talk about a classic story. I mean, it's the perfect example, and it's about one of the biggest innovators in history. You know, Henry Ford? The guy was an absolute genius. He looked at the world of cars and saw one massive problem. They were luxury, slow to build, super expensive. So he solved it. He created the assembly line, and this mass production machine just completely changed modern life. His success wasn't just big, it was legendary. But here's where the cracks start to show. Ford got so locked in on the game he had already won, the game of making things efficiently, that he couldn't see the world was changing around him. This famous quote, it's more than just a funny line, it's a huge red flag. It shows he was becoming fatally rigid in his thinking.
And this right here is the key takeaway. When you win the game, you change the rules of the game. Ford solved the production problem so completely the cars became affordable for almost everyone. And all of a sudden, the problem wasn't about how to make a car anymore. The problem became which car do people want to buy. The game shifted from production to markets to consumer choice. And a guy named Alfred Sloan over at GM, he got it. He offered different models, different colors, and GM just left Ford in the dust.
So, what Ford was dealing with, it wasn't just a problem. The incredible systems thinker Russell Ackoff has the perfect word for it: a mess. A mess isn't one isolated issue. It's this tangled web of interconnected problems. And the scary part is, when you try to pull on one thread to fix one thing, you often make the whole knot even tighter. You make the whole system worse.
So what gives? If our best ideas and our most brilliant solutions keep blowing up in our faces, what are we supposed to do? Well, Ackoff would say it's not our solutions that are wrong. It's our entire way of thinking that's broken. We need a whole new mental operating system. Now, check this out. For the past few hundred years, Western thought has been dominated by what we call analytical thinking. You take something complex, you break it down into its smallest pieces, and you study each piece to understand the whole thing. And that works great for a lot of things, but it completely falls apart when all those pieces are deeply interconnected. Systems thinking does the exact opposite. It says you can't understand a gear until you understand its function within the entire clock. It's all about the whole and how the parts relate to each other.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? Our biggest failures usually happen because we solve the wrong problem perfectly. Ford was still trying to solve the production problem, but the real problem had shifted to the market problem. Systems thinking is all about taking that step back to see the entire mess, just to make sure you're even working on the right thing.
Okay, so how do we actually do this? How do we start thinking in systems and finding our way through these messes? Well, let's look at a couple of really powerful rules from the systems thinking playbook. Okay, first up is this idea called multidimensionality. Now, it sounds complicated, but it's really about getting away from either-or thinking. Our brains love to simplify. Do we want stability or do we want change? Do we want low cost or high quality? A systems thinker looks at that and says, that's a false choice. The real genius is in designing a system that delivers both stability and change, both low cost and high quality at the same time. And that's the magic trick right there. It's about creating something that works perfectly out of parts that seem like they shouldn't go together at all. I mean, think about your car. You have an engine designed to make you go faster and brakes designed to make you go slower. They're total opposites. By themselves, they're useless for getting you from point A to point B. But you put them together in the right system, you get a vehicle you can actually control. You're not making a compromise, you're creating a whole new thing. All right, the second rule is a huge one. It's about how systems can be, well, sneaky. You've probably heard the story of the frog in the pot of water, right? If you drop it in boiling water, it jumps right out.
But if you put it in cool water and slowly turn up the heat, it won't notice the gradual change, and it'll boil. That's a system with a delayed counterintuitive result. The obvious fixes we make often feel good in the short term, but they can be setting us up for disaster down the line. Just look at this table. It lays it all out, plain and simple. Let's take that first one. A company decides to aggressively cut costs. The short-term result? Hey, profits are up this quarter. The board is happy, everyone gets a bonus. But the long-term consequence? R&D gets gutted, morale tanks, innovation grinds to a halt, and in a few years, the company is irrelevant. Or look at the second one. That's the Henry Ford story. You focus all your energy on that one hit product. Short-term, market share explodes. Long-term, the game changes, and you become a dinosaur. These fixes seem so logical at the moment because we're not seeing the whole system. So the key thing to remember is that this isn't just some abstract academic idea. It's a real hands-on way to actually design a better future, instead of just reacting to the present. Ackoff calls this interactive design, and it basically flips problem-solving on its head. Step 1, you get everyone together to map out the entire mess. Not just your little piece, but how everything connects. Step 2, and this is the really wild part, you imagine your ideal future. If you could have any system you wanted, with no constraints from today, what would it look like? You design that perfect end state. Then for step 3, you work backward from that ideal to figure out what you need to do today to start moving toward it. And you might be thinking, does this actually work in the real world? Oh, you bet it does. Let's talk about Marriott. Back in the early 90s, they were in a huge mess. A real estate collapse was happening, and their main customers, the people who owned the hotels, were going bankrupt left and right. Just cutting a few costs here and there wasn't going to cut it. So they redesigned their entire business from the ground up. They got rid of their old clunky structure and built a new, flexible system that dramatically slashed costs, which in turn generated enough cash to save their customers and themselves.
Okay, so let's bring this all home, because this whole way of thinking, it's not just for CEOs of giant companies like Marriott. It's a lens. It's a tool that you can use to look at any complex, messy problem in your own work, in your own life.
And I just love this final quote from Ackoff. Design is the vehicle through which choice is manifested. It's such a powerful reminder that the future isn't just something that happens to us. We get a say, we have a choice, and the act of designing, of consciously and thoughtfully creating something new, that's how we make our choice a reality. It's how we stop just fixing things and start creating the outcomes we truly want. So I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Think about it. That one frustrating, nagging problem you have, that mess that you keep patching up but it never really goes away, what would happen if you stopped trying to fix it? What if instead you took a big step back and started trying to redesign the whole system from scratch?